Hey there, I'm your host Lesawi, and in today's video we'll go over how to create an easy and scalable interaction system for your game. With this, we'll be able to display messages, we'll be able to pick up our items, open doors, and many more things. And with that said, let's begin. We'll start by creating our own custom trace channel in order to interact with our environment. So we'll go to settings, we'll go to project settings, and in here, if you look for something called a trace, this will allow us to create our own custom trace channel. And let's call it interactive. And we'll make it ignore for the default response and hit accept. With that out of the way, we'll go ahead and create our folder for the interaction. So let's call it interaction. And in here, we are interested in creating a blueprint interface. And let's call it BPI_interaction. And in here, we'll add a few functions. We'll add a function such as interact with, and we'll give it an input of player character. Now this could be used for your inventories and etc. So we'll add that here, player character. And this will be of type third person character or first if you're using the first person character. Now let's also add a look at function, and this will output the name of the item we're looking at. So outputs, let's say message, and we'll give this a text. And in here you can add more functions such as inspect and etc. But for now, this is enough. So we'll compile and hit accept. And with that done, we'll go ahead and create the widget where the message will be displayed. So create a new folder, call it UI. And in here, we want to create a user interface, widget blueprint, user widget. And we'll call it WB_interact message. Okay, so let's open this up and we'll add a canvas panel to this. And we want to add a border with a text inside it. So we'll first get this border. If you're holding down Control and Shift all the way at the bottom, it will align it for you without having to manually change the alignment. So once again, Control and Shift and press something like so. Okay, with that, we'll give it a size of, let's say 400 by 70 and an offset of maybe minus 120 on the position Y. And we'll change the brush color to something like a nice dark blue. Something like that. And we'll get a text, which we'll put inside this border, and we can center align it with a padding of 0. And let's say pick up item. And we'll change the font to be a bit smaller to compensate for longer texts. And we'll change this to be variable. And let's rename it to txt_interact message. Okay, with that done, we can also customize this border a little bit further. So let's go in here, create a new folder called MUI, and this stands for Materials UI. In here, we'll create a new material, and let's call it M_our double gradient. So it'll be a double-sided gradient. In here, we want to select this material and change this to be user interface and your blend mode to be translucent. With that, we'll right click and get our linear gradient. From here, we'll do a 1- to invert it. And we'll do a multiply node. So press M and left mouse to get a multiply node. And we'll need 2 of these. So this goes to B. And you can also open it up to see how it's already looking like. You can open this one up. So at the moment, if you were to connect this to there, it's not really the result we're looking for. So in order to get the result we're looking for, we'll multiply it once again by a strength of 4, and then we can clamp this value. So it'll clamp between the 0 and the max. And let's plug in here and here like so. And this is what we get, and this is more of what we're looking for. So let's hit apply and save. And with that, if we come into our widget, select the border and go to brush, we can look for our double gradient. And we're getting a much nicer effect like you've seen in the intro. So with that, let's compile and head over to our event graph. In here, we're looking for the pre-construct event because this widget will be created at the very start of the game. It's just going to be invisible if we're not looking at anything. So for the variables, we'll grab this one out and do set text and plug this in here. With this set text, we'll promote this in text to a variable, and let's call it our interact message or simply message. It's your choice. From here, we'll do is empty. So we're checking if there's anything in this. Now, if there's not, we'll do a select or not select, we'll do set visibility. And from the set visibility, we'll do a select node. So this will go into the condition. Now, if this happens to be true, that the text is empty, well, then we'll just have it collapsed. So it's no longer on the screen and it doesn't take up any UI space. Let's say it's not empty, so it is false. We'll make it not hit testable. So you can't click on it even though you see it. Right, next we'll go ahead and create a custom event. And this will allow us to set this message. So let's do set message. And you want to set this interact message. So press Alt, drag it out, and plug this into here. And just like that, this will go in there. So this will happen at the very start, and then this will update our message and check if it should display it or not. So let's compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create our input. So we'll go to our content drawer, third person, inputs, action, and let's do input action, IA underscore interact. So we're creating our own. Save this. We'll go a folder back to your IMC underscore default. In here, we'll create a new mapping, IA underscore interact, and select a key of your choice. I preferably like the key E, but you do you. So with that, hit save. And next, let's go ahead and create this interaction component. So in our interaction folder, we'll right click, go to blueprint classes and create an actor component. And let's call this BPC or blueprint component underscore interaction. In here, we'll begin by creating our widget we just made. So click, not the variable, click on the functions, new function, and we'll call it create interact message or widget. Up to you. From here, we'll do a create widget. This is what we want, and we want to input the widget we just made. So interact message. We'll promote this to a variable, WB underscore interact message, and we'll add it to our viewport like so. And we can select code and say creating interact widget, just to stay organized, and we can also show the bubble. So if we're out, we see what's happening. Cool. Let's compile that. And then let's go ahead and add this on event begin play. So whenever you add this component to an actor or to a player, as soon as they start playing, this widget will become visible. So drag this in and do that. Then we'll add another function and we'll call this our sphere trace. Oh, that's a capital P. Now, of course, if you don't want a sphere trace, I'll also show you how to do a capsule trace, and a line trace is very similar. You're just getting a line trace by channel. So in here, we'll do a sphere trace by channel, like so. And the way I do this is I'll get the owner. So whoever owns this component will get the actor's location. And in here, we'll plug this into start and the end. And for the radius of the sphere, it's up to you. You could also promote this to a variable, but let's do a 150 value. Now the trace channel will change to the trace channel we made, so interactive. And let's say you don't see this, simply compile again, and you should see it there. So interactive. And we'll have this for one frame just to see how it's looking like. Out of here, we'll do a branch, so B and left mouse. And with this branch, we'll also out hit, we'll do a break. And from this break, we're interested in the hit actor. So let's grab this and promote it to a variable. And let's call it our target actor or our look at actor. And from here, we want to check, does this actor that we're looking at does implement interface? And the interface we're checking for, of course, is our BPI interaction interface. And we can reroute this to make it readable. And let's say if it does, so that goes into the condition, only if it does implement this interface, we'll be promoting it to a variable. And if it doesn't, we'll grab this and set it to nothing on false and set it nothing to on false here. And because we created our widget, what we can do, because we also have our interaction interface, we can drag from this blue pin node and do look at message. This is the function we created at the very start. And the message in here will be, if we grab this widget, we can do set message. And in here, we can plug this in like so. So now if we create an item, an object, or a door, whatever it may be, we can set the message in there dynamically. Let's also grab this and plug this in here like so. So this gets set to empty. If we're looking at nothing, might as well copy that and plug it in here. Okay, so just like that, that's our interaction sphere done. Perhaps you want a capsule. So to do a capsule, I'll copy this code because pretty much it's going to be the same for your line trace or whatever it may be. We'll go in here and create a capsule trace. So this is very similar for a line trace, except you're getting a line trace by channel, not a sphere trace. And instead of doing this at the very beginning, we want this, of course. This stays the same. And it's the interactive channel. So in here, we'll do a get owner. We'll do get actor location like before. But from here, from the owner, we'll do get actor forward vector. This is what we want. And we want to multiply this by a float. So right click on this pin below and we can do a single precision, double, it doesn't really matter, but you want a float. And in here, this is how far the line will extend from the player. So let's do also 150 units. And the radius, of course, 150 is way too much. So grab this, hit add, and we'll add the start location to the ends location. Like so. Whoop. Not what I wanted. There we go. So this goes into start. And I'm wrong. This goes into start and this goes into the end. So that's the start location and this is the ends location. And radius, we can do something like 20. And in a second, you'll get an idea of how this is looking like. With that, we can compile this and close both of these. And in the event graph, we'll create a custom event called begin interaction. And this is the event we're calling, not the actual traces. Interaction. And in here, instead of using an event tick, this is better in my opinion, we'll do a set timer by event, like so. From here, we'll do another custom event, which we can call update interaction. And the time, we'll run this every 0.2 of a second, and we'll have this looping. So it's always constantly going to happen. Now, update interaction will call either your sphere trace or your capsule trace. This is completely up to you. And you can create more of these and change them. And you can either add this here as the default, sorry, not this one, begin interaction. Or let's say if you don't want to add it here, what you can do is if we go ahead and save this first and go to our third person character, we'll be adding this component in here anyway. So let's say you want a custom trace channel for the player and a different one for the enemy. What you would do is grab this and do begin interaction. And because we have our capsule trace, the capsule trace would happen there without having to plug this in here. And you could create a second one, let's say begin interaction 2, and that would have a sphere trace and blah, blah, so on. So you get the idea. So in the player, I won't actually do this. I'll compile that and give it this one. So by default, it's going to happen the capsule trace. Next, let's also go ahead and implement our interaction in here. So ia_interact. And with this, we want to get our target actor and make sure it's a validated get. So the target is valid. And of course, we already know that it implements our interface. From here, we'll do a interact with, and we're getting the message. And for the player character, now if you have this, what you can do is you can get your player character, cast, and so on, or an alternative, which will save you some time in the long run. We can go ahead and create a function library, and let's call it BP_universal functions. In here, what we can do is, let's grab this, rename it to get player character, or get whatever character name you have. And we'll do get player character, cast to third person character, or this may be your first person character, or something else. From here, we'll do a return node, and we'll plug this in there as the return. Let's just rename it player character. And we'll make this a pure function. Compile, save, and exit. And in our blueprint or our component, interaction component, here we can do get player character, and we can see our universal functions library there. So this is what we want, and simply plug it in there. And this is our interaction. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and create some objects. So let's go to our interaction folder maybe, or let's create a new one here. Let's just call it items. And we want to create a blueprint class actor, and let's call this BP_item_base. So this will be like a parent for all of your items. And in here, we of course want a static mesh to visualize what this is. Whenever you're creating a static mesh, you need to set the collision either here to block this. We'll change this to custom, and we need to block this interactive channel. Now you can either do this on the static mesh, or if you have a sphere around the static mesh, you can also do it there. So my preferred way is to grabbing a sphere collision, just add the collision part to it. And what I like to do is I like to make this custom and do interactive to be blocked on the sphere trace channel. So we'll do that. For the static mesh itself, we can exit there and do a default white cube. For the size, it's a bit big, so we'll do like 0.2 on overall. And for this sphere collision, we'll do something like 100 or even 200. Drag this up. Okay. So with that, we can plug this into the world just to get an idea of how it's looking like. And it's not bad, but it's a little small for our capsule trace to catch. So in this case, you can either increase the sphere radius, so capsule trace. Let's do something like perhaps 80. Save that and see what we get. So now we can see that this area is a lot bigger. Now, if we go close to our object, this green area means we're interacting with it. But at the moment, there is no message, nothing. So let's press escape. And while having this object selected, we can do Control and E, little shortcut to open it. And if we go to our interfaces, we have the look at and we have the interact with. So if we go back to the look at, in here, we can set this message dynamically, and this is very customizable. So from this message, we'll do a format text from which we can do promote to variable, and let's call it the item name. Now you could just, if you wanted to, simply type a name in or plug this in, and then whatever the object is called, it'll display. Or a step further is we connect that in there. We format to say pick space up space curly brackets item, or you could do even item name curly brackets close. And in here, we can plug this in. So it'll first say pick up whatever name it is. So if we compile and give it a base name of cube, we can also make it instance editable, so we can change it in the world. So now if we go to our object, we can in here see item name. If you don't see this, make sure you're in the details panel with the object selected. We could even change it to like we could call it magic cube, let's say. And now if we go to play, we can see it says pick up magic cube. So first of all, let's go ahead and disable this happening. So if we go back to our capsule trace, we can do none. So if you go back into the game, we don't see any trace happening, but we still can see the message. So with that, let's go and make this item pickable. or so we can pick it up. So if we go into the event graph on interact with, since I don't have an inventory system in here, what I'll simply do is destroy actor. So when we interact with it, we'll destroy this actor. So compile, save, go to here and press E, boom, actor's gone. We've picked it up, technically. So next, I'll also show you how to create a door. So if we go to items, might as well, and create a blueprint class, actor again, and let's call it BP underscore door base, or whatever you want. And in here, like we did previously, we want a static mesh. Let's call it our frame, and we'll add a static mesh, a second one inside this one, which will be the actual door. So let's click on this frame and do frame, door frame, SM underscore door frame. Perfect. And in the second one, we'll add a door, SM underscore door. Okay, and we just will adjust this. So we'll go here, change this to 5, and boom, there we have a door. So now if we press E on the keyboard with the door selected, we can rotate this. And let's say when it's opened, it's at 110. So we can see the view changes to 110, and we can see this happening on the rotation Z-axis. So 110 on the Z-axis rotation. Okay. And then, of course, close, that's just all 0. So with this information, what we can do, before we do that, let's also add the interface and make sure we're blocking the interactive channel. So either do door or frame, or do both. So we'll go to collision, custom, block on the frame, and we'll do the same collision, custom, block. So if we're looking at the frame or the door, doesn't matter. We still get the option to open it or close it. And in the event graph, we want to add a timeline. And in this timeline, we'll do door timeline, let's say. And we can do a length of 1. So that's how long it takes to open this door. And new track, we'll just call it open/close track, doesn't matter. Right click, add key to curve float, and the time is 0 because this is a beginning, and the value is going to be 0. So 0, enter. Right click once again, add key to curve float. Now the time is 1 second, and the value is going to be 1 because it's at its fullest potential. So we'll plug that in there. Like so. Let's compile and save. And if we go back into our event graph, we can do interact with, and interact with will go straight into the door. Now we can get a branch to check is open, or variable rather, get it, plug this into a branch. So if it is open, we'll do a set. So if it's, let's do not open, so not Boolean. So if the door is not open and this is true, well then we'll open it, and vice versa if it's closed. Oh wait, what am I doing? Is open. If it's not open, we open it, and otherwise we close it. Okay. So here is play and here is reverse. Now on the update, from this open close, we'll do lerp. And we want to drag this value into alpha. So hold control and drag into alpha. Now A is your closed and B is your opened. So if you remember, we had 110. And let's grab our door. That's the one we want. And we want to do set relative rotation. Now, if you have an item, a closet, this could be location or whatever. But since it's a door, we have rotation, and the value we had was changing on Z. So we want to plug this into Z. And let's hit update. So if we were to interact with our door, this door should now open and close. We won't have a message just yet, but we'll add this in a second. So grab our door and hit play. And if we go to it, we should be able to open it like so. We should be able to close it. Perfect. Now we can probably walk through this. Yeah. So if you don't want this, select your door, Control E, and in the viewport, we can close this collision. If you click on the folder to browse to this static mesh, we can go to collision and add a simplified box collision. This will just make sure we don't walk through this door. Perfect. Okay, so to get this message, in our door blueprint, we want to get look at, and we'll check, is the door open or not? So let's say the door is open. Well, then the message will have it say will be close door, and vice versa. If the door is not opened, we'll say open door. And you can see how very flexible the system is. So let's compile and save. And if we head back into our game, we can now see open door, and now it changes to closed door. And just like that, we have a nice flexible interaction system. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. And as always, happy developing.